Hello and welcome to the Easy Allies podcast. I'm your moderator, Brandon Jones. Joining me this week, panelists Ben Moore.
Yo, what up?
Michael Damiani.
How's it going, everyone?
My ab-fab co-moderator, Mr. Daniel Bloodworth.
Hello.
And making it all happen by starting the Zoom call in Slack, Ian Hink.
Hi.
Distinguished guests, we are here to discuss some of the biggest news in all of video games. But before we do that, we must atone for all of the mistakes we made last week. Ian, please begin corrections music.
Boop.
Persona 5 did launch on PS3 in the US. Sorry, Ben. We didn't know.
No, that was me.
Okay. The Mongols invaded Japan again.
Wait, Persona 5 or Persona 4?
Persona 5 did launch on the PS3 in the US.
What's going on with this company?
The Mongols invaded Japan 7 years after the events of Ghost of Tsushima, so there you go. There's your sequel. Bushido Blade is the lethal samurai game Damiani was thinking of. Bushido Blade. Suikoden Tierkreis launched in the US on the Nintendo DS. Tierkreis launched in the US on the DS with English voice acting. Machiko Naruke, Wild Arms 1 and 3 composer and co-composer of 4, is also working on Eiyuden Chronicle, but just was not featured prominently on their Kickstarter page. Zenny is a currency used in Dragon Ball, not Dragon Quest.
That did feel wrong.
Well, Zenny shows up in a bunch of things, but...
It does.
Yeah, it shows in and something else, too.
Novigrad Crowns is the currency in Witcher 3. You exchange the orans and florins into crowns, so Blood was right. Surge is pronounced Surge, not Sergey. He's French, he's not Russian. The Yeti, I said the Yeti, it's Yeti, like the monster. Kevin and Olivia hosted Attack of the Show. Adam Morgan hosted X-Play. Really tried not to do that, but I did it backwards. And Ian, there are 2 Redwall games. I don't recall Redwall games coming up.
I said make Redwall game, you coward.
Escape the Gloomer and the Scout.
Dude.
If you want to make a note of that.
Okay.
8 is 7.407, repeating of 108, so the Suikoden characters only being 100 would be 92.59% of the original Suikoden count.
Thank you.
Blood was heavy in disbelief, but the day after we recorded the podcast, it was announced that over 1 million players had played Grounded by last Friday, so I was right. We should have talked about it. And corrections music.
Boop.
You were unsure. You were like, why are we talking about Grounded? Yeah, we had a fun group stream, but why is this relevant? And I was hours ahead of that announcement.
Where was the report? And then the report didn't come till the next day.
Right.
Yes.
But I was sniffing that report.
So I have the T on Zenny. It's a Capcom thing, and it's in a whole bunch of stuff. Mega Man, Breath of Fire, Tron Bonne, all kinds of stuff. Monster Hunter, apparently.
Clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more clarifications than corrections in that, I think.
Let's play Gaming Gladiators. This is this bit where I like to have video game characters battle to the death, which is
only
a huge
6 months
deal.
to go.
Only 6 months left to go. Pledge now. We got 2 fights left. We got this and one other grand fight. One of our lovely patrons, patreon.com/easyally, submitted a 4-way fight, and I got to see it. I got to do it. I'm down. Doomslayer versus Duke Nukem versus Serious Sam versus BJ Blazkowicz. All 4.
Doomslayer.
Just thrown in.
In like 3 seconds ends this. Yeah.
BJ might hold on the latest.
You don't think they can gang up? You don't think they can all... There will be this moment of reckoning between Duke and Sam and BJ where they're like, we gotta team up. We gotta group together.
No. I don't.
Would you want to watch that, though? With that... Maybe, maybe placing bets are one thing, but...
Doom.
Maybe at least just Duke.
Doomslayer rips and tears, no, it's not even close. In my opinion, if anybody wants to fight for the rest of them.
I think Doomslayer could win it with a punch, right?
Yeah. Berserker, just...
They could all come at him and just one punch.
Yeah.
Knock them all down.
And each one he kills would, heal him. Because that's how it goes
glory
in that
kills,
game.
Yep. Yeah, he immediately takes down Duke Nukem, gets health back, goes after Serious Sam,
gets ammo back.
Gets health back.
bro fist BJ Blazkowicz before eviscerating him.
Actually, Duke Nukem just dies of lung cancer before he gets started.
Whoa.
Wow, Bloodworth.
Taking it down. Picking it right back up. To talk about some video game news, I wanted to talk about Spider-Man. I was just itching to talk about Spider-Man, but the state of play that we saw today keeps getting more and more interesting. Sony had a very interesting week. There's 3 headlines I would like to discuss when it concerns Sony, but we should probably get into today's state of play, which I did enjoy. I liked the pace. It was a lot of developers talking about their own stuff. There were a lot of genuine, honest moments in it. And a lot of these were updates on games that we know. But the two big stories for me were Aeon Must Die and Hood Outlaws and Legends. Outlaws and Legends because we're curious what the heck this is. But Aeon Must Die because the devs quit the studio due to crunch. I'm sorry, Aeon Must Die due to crunch and lack of payments. And the trailer was outsourced to artists without contracts. And like the staff of this game posted a huge Dropbox of all the different departments and documents saying what had happened to them, all just kind of, organizing this information the way each of them wanted to. And I'm sure Sony didn't know about this. I don't know what you do now if you're Sony. I don't know what the fate of this game is, but what a completely bizarre thing that we found out. Ian, you broke this news, at least to us.
Chat broke it to me. I was watching chat, and they posted the link to that tweet where that guy was just like, this is created with abuse, manipulation, and theft. And, like, all of them quit.
I saw one thing in there, just scanning it really quickly, about, like, they were trying to work from home, and then they were, like, getting angry messages saying, like, why aren't you at work? I'm like, because there's a pandemic. There's a lot of craziness going on in all of that. But, yeah, it's hard to digest because there's so much information. Everything that happened, it does seem like there was some kind of little shell game that happened to where the CEO ended up getting like all the shares of the company, or majority shares, and just sort of basically just blocked everyone out from being able to get their profits. I don't know.
Does this make Sony look bad? Do we not have an opinion about Sony on this? Does this not affect Sony at all?
I don't think this is necessarily a Sony issue. I mean, this is the developer and the publisher. Sony just. But I mean,
this event happened, and this is what people are just kind of fascinated and talking about right now. And I could see Sony being like, it'd be great if you were talking about Pathless instead. But I guess this is just fascinating to cover.
I don't know if they were even aware of it or not. Sounds like.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine how they would be.
Yeah, because I feel like even the people who were affected by this weren't aware it was happening in this presentation, because I think they would have tried to preemptively done something to say something to maybe get it stopped from being shown, but they probably had to scramble when they saw it was, included in the state of play. So yeah, I'm not sure. There's been other videos that have been included in past presentations where it's come out, either a creator or someone on the development team had done something, bad in the past, and maybe best to distance yourself from that project. And I don't think Sony's caught flack, or whoever it was, they didn't catch flack for any of those times. It's as long as Sony, maybe just like, if it's proven it's true, they say, we're not working with them anymore. Just, denounce it or something. That's all they have to do. And I highly doubt they're going to know.
Well, and it seems like this game is not likely to come out.
That's my next question. I don't know.
Right.
Stranger things have happened. We're getting a Kingdoms of Amalur remaster. Anything's possible. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, if he owns all of it and he can somehow hire people, but it's just one of these things where, one of the things I'm reading in the Kotaku summary is that, he was averse to hiring people, and that's why, they got into the crunch and the hard working conditions, is because they just didn't have enough staff for what they were being told to do.
But I'm thrilled that they could band together. I mean, that certainly must have taken a lot of coordination and a lot of focus, and it's just nice that. I mean, it probably was smart to do this today. It probably was smart, to get out ahead and get the word out there. I just wonder if people are really going to dig into this material, if this just, like, what are the legal ramifications of this? And it's just not a huge game, so it's like I could see this person releasing it in some form, or just making an attempt to try to keep it still in the public eye. So I'm extremely curious what's going to happen.
Treat your employees well, please.
Yes. A good example of what will happen if you don't. Hood Outlaws and Legends is a multiplayer PvP PvE heist game coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, PS4, Xbox One, PC in 2021. Gather your team of outlaws and attempt to steal treasure from an oppressive government in a dark and violent medieval world. 2 teams of players compete to execute the perfect heist in environments patrolled by deadly AI guards. Utilize the unique skills and mystical abilities of each character, moving in stealth to steal treasures unseen or dominating through loud and brutal combat. Did they sell this game well, Ian Hink?
No.
Well put. You don't like the CG with a sprinkle of gameplay? It doesn't get your heart pumping?
No. And like when it culminates, I think Huber said it too or something, when it's like the reveal of like, oh hey, it's multiplayer team
That
v
was me.
team. Oh, that was you.
I said that.
Huber just made such a great point that's just not a cool revelation anymore. No, I mean what Ben said, I mean hit the nail on the head for me, because it's just it's funny to me that you're highlighting this one, because to me this is one of the like forgettable.
This is new IP. These are there too. You know, these are the 2 things we didn't know about. And one,
to me,
that's the other crazy thing about Aeon Must Die is it was like a new IP announcement and gone like right when it was announced.
It's funny because stuff like this, like Hood, I've just like we've been burned before, I guess. Like For Honor came out. For Honor, I think, is actually like really cool, but it kind of didn't make a huge splash like we thought it might. And like, I mean, to say nothing of the Evolves of the world, you know, like many games have tried this and few seem to break through. So I guess I'm just skeptical until we see actual game.
Are there a lot of multiplayer fantasy-based, like competitive games, team-based competitive games? Fantasy, you know, like that was the thing about Fable Legends. I was bummed, like.
Well, you've got stuff on PC. You've got like Mordhau and Chivalry and
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it definitely exists.
It almost feels to me like almost like a fantasy Rainbow Six Siege kind of a setup in a way.
And if that's what if it's heisty and cool and fun, then yeah, I could see it being really nice, cool. But we didn't get that from this trailer.
Yeah, there's not much to go on either. I mean, just like digging further into it, it's just watch the trailer, register for the beta and the newsletter. So they at least could have. This is kind of what we talked a little bit with like Godfall. Like the information they were giving out wasn't very terribly useful to us. We wanted to hear other things, and I think the same situation here where there was just not enough shown of this, and the concept alone wasn't strong enough. So we'd like to dive into, a little bit more of the inner workings and the structure of the game and the other systems, and there's none of that ready to go. It's just like, hey, sign up, and we'll alert you when it's ready to talk about it again. It's like, I hate this. Like, no. Like, you got to have a stronger CG trailer, something cooler than that. That wasn't good enough.
I think to me, it just didn't. The trailer and the presentation, it just didn't sell what it was. Like I learned more about this game from the email, 10 minutes later, than I caught wind of in the trailer. And so I think that's kind of where it fell apart to me. It was like Godfall, I'm just kind of like, you're trying to sell me this thing, and I'm not convinced there's more to it. Whereas with this, I don't even know what it is in, watching the trailer. So,
I do think,
yeah,
especially now with the way things take off with streaming and how kind of things get their moment in the sun, a like strong beta or something, or just, a good weekend on Steam could totally change this around. But yeah, I think it just being a fantasy PvPvE thing with a showing that didn't really give you the hook super well is not great. But I don't necessarily think that's the end of the world in terms of like this game's life.
Yeah.
One of the reasons this stood out to me, Ian, is that so many of these other things we totally knew about. Some of the stuff I was surprised at. I wasn't sure if this, because I hadn't heard of, the Pedestrian. I hadn't heard of, some of the new stuff that I'll, probably be checking out. What am I looking for? Genshin Impact. There it is. I definitely.
Breath of the waifu.
Oh man, I saw some
gameplay
gameplay of just this gal floating around some like beautiful tropical like village. I'm like, yeah, sure, I will definitely play that. But turns out a lot of this stuff we just got fun updates from, or it's coming to PS4, PS5, Vader Immortal coming to PSVR, or we got a deep dive into like Bandicoot, Pathless, Spelunky 2. And
the release date for Spelunky 2, I was like, yes.
And we've had some state of plays that try to be everything all at once, and I liked that this definitely had a theme of. There were some fun surprises. We didn't know Braid was going to get an anniversary edition, but we definitely were familiar with what was being said. We were familiar with these projects. We're familiar with Bugsnax. So it was kind of nice having
we familiar with Bugsnax?
We're about to get
Can one be
intimately familiar with Bugsnax.
Bugsnax?
But it just all seemed kind of like similar news. So I like the way they cultivated this, and that's why something weird like this stealth shoot that like looks kind of neat, but we don't know more about, stood out and didn't line up with like, even seeing Godfall again, but like getting cool new footage of Control, and Temtem is just hot.
I think it's a funny, maybe part of why it didn't land, like it would not have been out of place in a traditional kind of E3 press conference, or even like what we got from Xbox last month. But because this one had these like little 5-minute deep dive vignettes about different games that were telling you what they were, seeing a CG trailer for a new announcement, while totally normal in the industry, felt a little weird in this presentation, because it's like, I want that information. Like, you've put me in that headspace. So maybe that's why I felt underwhelmed, because I was like, what is it, though? Like Bloodworth said.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, Ian.
Is this a weird press conference to have right before you sell a new console? Was this fine? Was there anything about this that... Because and like Huber said while we were actually live streaming, that they set the expectations well. We kind of had a sense of what to expect or what not to expect.
Oh,
yeah, I think what's interesting is that they set this expectation of like, hey, we're not going to have any new PS5 announcements. And yet, in a way, they kind of did. So, there are definitely things in there that are worth talking about. Like Hitman doing the PSVR thing in January, that's going to be a big deal. The Braid Anniversary Edition is a big deal. Spelunky, I think, is a big deal. And so I think, that they went above what they set your expectations for, and that's why a lot of this was successful.
Yeah.
You go.
I was going to say, I think Sony is doing a better job of keeping tabs on what the discussions are out there about the speculation and expectations. And they probably saw a lot of chatter that there's supposed to be an August event. There's even rumors that maybe the price would be revealed. There's even rumors that like they have a second showcase, that they were holding back some big games from their original showcase to save for the second one. And I think they're like, we have to clarify. No, it's none of this. And it worked, as you said, it worked very well. The funny thing I will be looking forward to in the future, though, is how long can you keep setting the bar low before people start like just automatically? No, they're just saying that it's absolutely going to have bigger things in it. Like I feel like people inevitably are like, their own worst enemies when it comes to this type of stuff. They will see a trend, a pattern, and assume that things must follow this trend and pattern. And these companies can absolutely do what they want. They don't have to follow this trend or pattern that you've made up. Or sometimes people just, see it themselves. So I'm waiting for the event where they say, oh, don't expect, in the future, like, hey, we're just doing a update on older PS5 games, like next year, things you already know about, no brand new PS5 announcements, and people are like, there's gonna be like, Resident Evil like 4 remakes gonna be there and stuff, and they go ridiculous with it. It's like, I hope they don't do that, but they will.
That's kind of in line with something I was thinking about too, because I think the opposite could happen. Because the thing I'm starting to get concerned about, and I sort of talked about this a little during our reactions about Godfall being like the only thing at release or something besides Miles Morales, which obviously is going to be great, but like the thing I worry about is the opposite of that, where people's expectations start falling because they start to realize the truth that there is hardly anything to show. And like the weird thing that's the thing that's getting weirder and weirder for me over time is that we don't know the price points or release dates for any of these consoles yet. And it's like, in the past console release cycles, we knew about that by now for like months, right? Like,
Yeah, so Ian, you're doing what I just was kind of alluding to in a different way. You're going based on patterns in the past and assuming they must play out this way. But as you were pointing out, but it also could result in the worst thing, where things could actually be fine. The prices might not be insane; they might actually be at parity. There might be like 5 to 6 strong games for each system at lineup that we don't know about yet. That absolutely could happen. It's just. It is, though, reasonable, the more you deviate from what is the normal or what is the expected, to start having these types of thoughts, I think. And
I think it's probably maybe it's a good sign that they're reading the current state of the market correctly, because like 7-year cycle, whatever, like 6-7 years ago, the way you announce something, like things would stay news for longer. I feel like now they've got to hit that window, get the news out there in the right time and close enough to launch. And like Sony has already said, they're not going to just spring a pre-order on everybody. They're going to say like, you can pre-order at this time, 1 per household, whatever. So it's like, I think that they're very strategically saying like, we're going to have, this will be news for a day and a half before something crazy happens and no one cares about PlayStations anymore. So maybe it makes sense. I do wonder if we would have known everything if it weren't for COVID. Like if it would have followed a more traditional cycle, and maybe
the schedule would be different. I mean, I can't imagine.
I think it's something definitely different. The only final thing I'll add to that, Ian, is the one thing that could backfire on any of both the companies is I think also with the current situation, people are just being a little bit more responsible and careful with their money. The less time they have to prep for a big purchase, perhaps they're just going to pass on it and wait to buy it later down the road. So I do think there is a point where Sony might need, there's a point of getting too close where it might hurt them, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things going on. I do think the COVID situation is one of the biggest factors in multiple ways. I think they're probably, having to figure out like all of the logistics and get that sorted out and make sure that they have a release date that they can absolutely hit. And I think that without a release date, they don't have any real good reason to give a price, because they need to essentially announce all that and have pre-orders available all at once. And I think the other thing about that too is that without E3, they don't have that big mass of retailers to brief, because that's a huge part of the E3 attendance is retail representatives and actual like those business deals with how many you are going to buy and all of that is going on. And, it used to be I remember back in the old days of E3, there used to be like a section of Nintendo's booth and some of the other booths that was essentially just like set up like a GameStop. It just like had all the box arts for everything around. So that people, again, just buyers could come in and see what they were going to put on their shelves and see the packaging. And so I think without that component happening, that's kind of thrown everything off. And then I also feel like Microsoft is sort of holding Sony hostage a little bit. I think Microsoft has everything ready to go and no incentive to play their cards. So, they're more focused on selling Game Pass than they are on selling the Xbox Series X.
Right.
Even though the Xbox Series X is, reportedly in all these people's houses and, components-wise ready to go. So they should know what that thing costs.
Well, and like they just keep proving over and over again like that they've started to play an entirely different game than Sony. Like they're just basically giving you a cheap PC to put in your house so that you can use Game Pass on it. Like that's what they're doing. And like Sony's like, no, we're gonna have exclusives and Spider-Man is ours forever and blah blah, and it's just like that's getting to be not maybe gonna be the way that everything's gonna go forever. I don't know.
Ian, I can't tell you if Spider-Man is gonna be Sony's forever, but Spider-Man's not gonna be in Avengers on Xbox, that's for sure. Whether they wanted to announce it this week or not, or on PC, Sony said, yeah, Spider-Man is exclusive. And I get it. I see why this happened. But I saw a lot of the people at Marvel and a lot of people at Crystal Dynamics. And, I mean, you make a cool deal. You got a fun game coming out. I guess you want to celebrate. But they were very just like, woohoo, thwip. And it's like, you can't expect Why are you tweeting that? What are you doing to yourself? Like, why are you just like, I want to ruin my day? Boop. You know, it's like, I'm surprised they didn't see all that coming, or whether they were just like, I'm just going to not read that tweet's replies. I'm just going to mute everybody. I don't care. Because of course everybody's going to be frustrated. And we've spent all week, you know, this has been several days that people are going to be talking about it. This is Thursday when we're recording it. It's going to be even older tomorrow. But I did just play the beta with Ben. Mm-hmm. Ben, how important is not just Spider-Man, but like just one character in the game that you played? How much of a loss do you think that is?
Well, I think a character is a significant deal, but I think the fact that it is Spider-Man is an even bigger deal.
Of course.
I mean, just my own bias is Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel character, right? And so if you're going to put him in a game where I can choose a bunch of Marvel characters, I'm probably going to be drawn to Spider-Man. And so, to me, this is just absolute grade A bullshit. Like, and it's so infuriating because, like, it's ridiculous to me that they're announcing it now, right? After all this time of talking about the game and getting people excited and showing off different things. And it's just, this is not the first time this has happened, right? Like there are countless other deals that you can look at and critique. Those suck too. I'm not saying those don't suck, but it's infuriating knowing that if you want to play on a different platform, you're paying the same amount of money for less, and that just sucks. Like I don't know why you wouldn't be frustrated by that. I've heard people try to say, like, well, why don't you get upset about exclusive games? And it's like, it's not quite the same thing, right? The game is exclusive to one other platform. You don't have another option. It's not like you're paying your same $60. That's a hypothetical thing. It's not like you're paying your $60 on a competing platform because that version of the game doesn't exist. Whereas here, you're paying the same amount of hard-earned money and you're just not getting the same amount of stuff. And that's ridiculous.
Do you think that Microsoft will announce, like, what if they came out and they were like, we've got, I don't know, somebody nuts, like Wolverine is in this.
Crystal Dynamics said no. They said that's it.
Oh, they said there's nobody else.
That's the only
one.
one.
Oh, yeah,
That would be the
that's
only
crazy.
one, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's nuts.
I mean, it is curious, you know, because like, you know, in the past, like Soul Calibur's, you know, always sort of played around with exclusive characters, but yeah,
they've gotten away from that though. I mean, Soul Calibur 6 doesn't have platform exclusive characters.
Sure.
Well, and back in the day, it was always like they got this one and they got this one, you know, so it's like felt equal.
And it usually made sense to an extent too. So it didn't feel like completely betrayed.
Let me
I
ask
think that's
you,
maybe the difference is that, like, with, you know, Zelda being on a GameCube, obviously Zelda's not going to be on Xbox, right? So
I think a more contemporary comparison is for a long time, Destiny 2 and Destiny 1, I believe, had PS4 exclusive strikes. So, and it would be like exclusive for a period of time, but that's not good either, right? Like I don't love this idea of having exclusives that devalue the other versions.
Isn't this also getting more than just Spider-Man exclusive? Didn't they follow up?
They're getting more than just Spider-Man, yeah.
Hang on. We'll have exclusive access to certain community challenges and cosmetics. They'll have 30-day exclusive access to legendary outfits, legendary emote, epic takedowns. So it's cosmetics and some whatever community challenges are. Also, and as we saw, like the beta accesses, that's not too uncommon. Seeing one platform getting a earlier beta access, and I don't think that's as big of a deal. But cosmetic stuff, I mean, I think that's always going to be around. But when you talk about the strike stuff, Ben's what made me think about this, because I thought they mentioned something about actual legit content in there that might be, you know, exclusive to a platform, and I hate that stuff. Like that's also just the character's bad, but like not being able to just do like remediate like mission stuff, that sucks even more to me too, because like, hey, maybe I didn't like Spider-Man, that's fine. Wait, I don't even get this mission. Oh, come on, really?
Yeah,
I'm curious if those are like Spider-Man missions. And
right, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
is that going down?
Is it weird? Do any of you like? I always, maybe I'm just taking the weird other read on it, but like my assumption is always with a lot like the Destiny strikes or like Call of Duty gets this map on PlayStation, whatever. My assumption is always like it'll be a throwaway mission, like a kind of phoned in crappier mission, or like
But
You know
in
what I
this
mean?
instance, like that kind of makes it even worse, right? So let's say you have Spider-Man come out on PS4 and he's amazing, right? And everybody
Right.
wants to play him. He's super fun to play. That sucks, right? Because only one platform gets him. If he's throwaway, then you just made Spider-Man throwaway, right?
Right,
So
right.
that sucks too. And so I don't really see a huge upside
Yeah.
in
That's-
this particular instance.
Such a good point too, because also they also confirmed that this is not Marvel's Spider-Man. This is not the video game
Right.
universe. So it's just like I thought maybe it was going to be that. I'm like, okay, if it's going to be that, it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah,
to
would
me,
that
and we've
make
been
it better?
building up. To me, it would be a little bit easier to swallow because there was some actual thought behind it besides not just money, but like content, lore, and like building up maybe to something bigger. And it's only maybe possible because Sony has some of the rights. I mean, that's what Marvel's already doing with Spider-Man in the movie, the MCU. They have to work with Sony Pictures
Yeah.
to make it happen. So it's like, yeah, like let's make it happen. But it's not even that. It says Crystal Dynamics vision of Spider-Man. It's like it could be awful. It's like, oh,
But
no.
I'm sure that it's all tangled in with the Sony rights stuff. Like Sony owns the rights.
No.
Right?
To the films, they don't have anything
Not,
to
this
do
was-
with
I
the
mean,
game.
not
The
legally,
character-
but it's how these conversations started.
The
Obviously,
video game rights
Right,
to Spider-Man
right.
aren't owned by Sony. It was clarified. Just that game's version of Spider-Man is is Sony's version of it. That's theirs. But like the rights aren't exclusively owned for video game
Oh, okay. I
applications.
thought it extended to the game because of that being exclusive. That's interesting.
No.
The one thing I wanted to ask you, Brandon and Ben, since you've played it, I was watching the Mr.
Yeah.
Sunday Movies interpretation reaction to the beta, and their kind of takeaway was that most of the time the levels don't feel like your means of transportation, like which character you are, really has a huge impact. It doesn't super matter, like if you can fly or jump really far. Like they
Right.
said, and I think Jones, you might have said this too, that Black Widow was their favorite because it felt the most active getting around and doing stuff. So to me, I wonder how much Spider-Man will even like make a difference.
I think you're correct and incorrect, where characters do feel interchangeable in a lot of ways, and there weren't strong instances of like, oh, I have to have this character or anything like that. But you know, you're still unlocking cosmetics for them because you want them to look cool. You're still getting gear, you're still building them up. And so I think just the way the game is designed around loot and unlockables, you're still getting attached to the characters, right? And so all that stuff that you're earning for Spider-Man, you just won't be able to do that on other platforms.
Yeah, one of the things about that though that I thought was funny. I think I mentioned this to Brandon when I was checking out the preview, the impressions you guys did, and I saw in the footage there was a shot of Kamala doing a swinging motion, you know, with her arms. And
Yeah.
then, like, right after, there was a shot of Black Widow swinging with her grappling hook. And I'm like, oh, that is going to be what Spider-Man looks like when he
Yeah.
swings.
Yeah.
Because everything about that motion was exactly the same.
I have to say, I don't think this paints a great picture for Crystal Dynamics. I think if you're trying to make a game that you're like, oh, this is a platform and we're going to be really in tune with our fans and like we really care about you guys, this is not a move that communicates that, right? This is not a move that makes me think, you know, you're valuing all of your players equally. And I think it just kind of leaves a bad taste.
Did you hear the statement from the head of Crystal Dynamics, Ben?
I read something like, oh, you know, we're all big Marvel fans, but we're also all big PlayStation fans.
He had, I'll get through this very quickly. This is Scott Amos, the head of Crystal Dynamics. Spider-Man is a unique opportunity for us because of the relationship that PlayStation and Marvel have. I would say that Marvel's Avengers has a lot of heroes, and with the scope and breadth of this game and this universe, players are going to have their hands full with a lot to play with. And as we have just announced with Hawkeye, there are more heroes to come, so this is an opportunity to celebrate uniquely for those players because of that relationship. But I think there's so much of a world for people to explore. I wouldn't look at that as a reason not to embrace it. I would say, look at all this stuff you get to play with. And for those players who absolutely want to play as Spider-Man, you have the option to do so on PlayStation.
It is masterfully written bullshit.
That is some grade A corporate BS. I love it.
Oh
He's
my
excited.
God.
He's like, but wait. He's like,
That's about on the level of you don't have access to the internet. We have a product for you, the Xbox 360. Like that's
Right,
about on
right.
par.
Speaking of the Xbox 360, IFCYG on Patreon let us know that when Ultimate Alliance launched, there were 7 characters exclusive to Xbox 360. 7. Cyclops, Hawkeye, Hulk, Doctor Doom, Magneto, Nightcrawler, and Venom. All exclusive to the 360. So I don't know if this is...
I do get a little
upset before.
I do get a little tired about that when people are like, "Oh, you're upset about this thing. Well, what about this other thing that happened 5 years ago?" And it's like, no, yes, that's bad too. But we're talking about this thing that's happening right now.
Well, it's just a different time. I don't remember that. I don't remember being upset about that. I probably played it on 360, but we will see. And Crystal Dynamics, known for exclusivity, Return of the Tomb Raider. Return of the Tomb Raider? Rise of the Tomb Raider? Rise.
Right. Rise of the Tomb Raider.
The Tomb Raider Strikes Back?
And there was a lot of understandable frustration with that too. Like people were upset about that too.
That deal was insane. Like that was an asinine deal.
Yeah.
And they're just doing it again. Like
I think this one will work out a little bit better. Again, this one I think obviously is going to... People are mad because it's a lot of people are like, I'm not going to play this game anymore, or they're just like, oh, I was not playing. I'm playing on PS4, but damn, you got me, So I think this will definitely turn a lot more heads.
I feel like that Tomb Raider didn't, ruffle many feathers. It didn't really break the mold, and it wasn't winning Game of the Year left and right. And from what I've seen of this Avengers game, it won't either.
The
pretty
Tomb
middling,
Raider,
it looks like.
The way you're framing the Tomb Raider thing, Ian, is very interesting because I kind of agree with you, but I also think the reason it didn't get more excitement was because of this deal, right? I think there was a lot of goodwill, and I'm going off memory and sentiment here, which is not the best judge, but there was a lot of people that loved 2013 Tomb Raider, but then I think this just left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth because this was still early enough on in the console generation where they're like, wait, I can't continue this story just because I don't have this system. And so I think that naturally neutered kind of the interest in Rise of the Tomb Raider at launch.
I think that's kind of what I mean, is their bad business decision killed people's enthusiasm for that thing. And from what I've heard about this game and seen from this game, just the fact that this game isn't that great will make people care less about this in a couple of months.
They'll just have to add more characters.
It is interesting on
more stuff to play with.
Amazon's top game sellers updated hourly. PS4 Avengers is number 2. Xbox Avengers is all the way down at number 26.
Whoa.
Yeah. And apparently at one point they were much closer to each other.
But that beta is coming up this weekend too, the PS4 pre-order beta.
So dude, you announced this now before the beta or after the beta? There's a lot of people be playing that beta on
But
I mean, ideally,
the pre-orders have been open forever.
Ideally, you announced this forever ago, right? If you're gonna do this, I think obviously it's not that simple, right? And I'm sure these deals take a while to hammer out, but they shouldn't happen in the first place. But I just think it's a little odd to cultivate all this interest and have people know about your game forever, and then this close to launch, pull a move like this.
Well,
what if I was real quick. I was just gonna say total conspiracy theory, but what if Crystal Dynamics or somebody didn't like Game Pass or something, thought they were going to lose a bunch of money and so intentionally did this to shift the focus of the player base.
No, I think that is too conspiracy.
Yeah, that's insane, but
I was wondering when is Spider-Man actually going to be available, cuz I get the sense that this is a long ways off.
If we didn't see him, if we didn't see him 2021 probably,
I think they actually said it's sometime next year, but I could be wrong. I'd have to look at the announcement again.
Ian, if Sony didn't ruffle enough feathers, they also let us know that we can't play PS5 games with PS4 controllers.
Yeah.
Licensed racing wheels, arcade, and fight sticks will work with PS5 games and supported PS4 games. But it's not going to work. Xbox obviously has already told us that stuff will, and they reminded us with a really biting tweet, a nice retort. That's all you can keep those console controllers.
The response tweet, because at first I was like, oh, this is a bummer. But then I was thinking about it, and that snarky tweet made me think about it too. And so now I'm of two minds on this, because on the one hand, I totally get it. You want to be able to use your stuff on new stuff and whatever. On the other hand, what this really means is that Xbox isn't iterating in interesting ways on their hardware. Like, isn't, to a certain extent, that's one of the things you want out of a new generation, is this iteration, to the point that new and interesting things are happening that old hardware is not capable of. And so, like, walking around going, nanner, our controllers work on everything. It's like, yeah, because they never change or get better or more interesting. And I'm not saying, I'm kind of on both sides of this one.
I think I could maybe get behind that argument more if I felt like a larger number of people used the super unique features of each controller in interesting ways. Right? Where I feel like you look at both the PS3 and the PS4, and there are exceptions to this, but most games treat those controllers like basic-ass controllers. There might be a little bit of experimentation here and there with either new hardware or at launch, but for the most part, there's not too much going on to the point that I would not want to be able to, like, use my old stuff because that would be economically beneficial to me.
Do you see that changing on PS5, Ben? Do you see you playing DualSense and being like, oh, I get it. Get out of DualShock, you throw it out the window? Like,
I mean, to be fair, I have not used the DualSense yet, so maybe I'll be like, oh, I get it. I get what they're going for. This is a huge improvement. Maybe, but probably not.
Well, and it's like because Xbox doesn't have the haptics or whatever, all the, multi-platform games can't dedicate huge game-changing mechanics to that feature, right? And like in the past, most of the gimmicky controller things kind of sucked. Like anytime a game, like Nintendo just won't stop with it. Like first thing I did in Paper Mario was turn off motion controls. But it's just like, so they're all kind of bad. So we'll see if haptics is, just a gimmick, like 6-axis, like making you do this to try to...
Well, that, you said... Sorry, you caught in a frame trap, man. You said the wrong word.
Oh, no.
Just the 6-axis. I'm getting flashbacks, man, of a cocky Sony showing off the PlayStation 3 at a ridiculous price point.
They were so cocky about it.
But the Xbox 360 controllers don't work on Xbox One. The PS3 doesn't work on PS4. Like, this is something we should, potentially should have seen coming, but... I can't stop thinking about that 6-axis, and they, just the goofiness. I hope we don't get more of that leading up to launch.
It's just so weird because it feels like the jump from PS4 to PS5 and Xbox One, Xbox Series X, there jumps up, but in terms of like architecture, that there's less of an excuse. There's less of a technical hurdle to bringing those controllers up to speed. Like it's clearly it feels like a move to maybe, as you said, make people think about the benefit of the creativity aspect, whether or not it's actually going to be there or not, what Ian was talking about. But at the same time, I think it's also a move to protect its, like, the future strength of its brand, that they want people to buy DualSense controllers. They want people to spend money on the new stuff because they probably going to... I mean... I don't think they're going to stop making the newest DualShocks anytime soon. So, and forget that point. I think they're just trying to force you to buy the new thing and buy multiple of them because they want you to have multiple controllers for them, because Sony makes a lot of money, I think, on their accessories. I feel like they do really make a killing on them, and they just don't want to... This is a company that had at one point doomed one of its like most promising handhelds with a bunch of proprietary shit they just would not budge on with the Vita.
Oh, the
like
Vita
this is straight up this is straight up MO. This is straight up Sony's MO. There's always one thing they're gonna do that is like reeks of this crap, and like I don't get why pick the controller. This is like the thing that should be like a give me. I just don't get this. It seems weird.
It goes back to the same thing. It's a philosophical difference in what in their approaches to generations. Like Sony is thinking of this as this is the new PlayStation, the new generation, the new machine. So of course everything's going to be new. Of course the controller only works with that. Why wouldn't it? It's a new generation. Whereas Microsoft isn't making generations anymore. They're just making you buy cheap computers. Like that's a whole different philosophical thing.
But eventually all this stuff adds up, right? And there are a ton of, I think, just giving more options is just generally better, right? Like this is not, I can't speak for everybody, but I spent the money on the Elite 2, right? And that thing is like my favorite controller ever. I use it on my Xbox all the time. I use it on my PC all the time. And you're right, like maybe the DualSense would be a game changer, and that'll be my new favorite controller. But I already know that I like my Elite 2, and so the fact that I know that I can use it on that new hardware, I think is kind of comforting and cool that it's an option that is there for me. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, but I mean, like, there are times where it's like, oh, I want to play this game on the couch with my wife, and we can do, split screen and Master Chief Collection, or I can just have my progress carry over on PC and play it alone there. I really like, and the more involved I get with it, the more I appreciate the options and value that Microsoft is giving through these sorts of things.
Totally agree, Ben. And you're getting a DualSense controller with the PS5. I mean, I'm assuming they confirmed that, right? Yeah. You're getting at least one. So I'm going to have a controller that I can play all they have creative games that only make use of the DualSense. So be it. I have one. But if I just prefer the feel of the DualShock 4 and I want to use it in other games, why not let me do that? It's as simple as that to me. And I think it's baffling. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Can't you just see the sad Astrobot when you plug in a PS4 controller and he's like, come on, Astrobot, go! And he's like...
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I'm similarly kind of split, like Ian was saying. Like, I definitely saw this as like, yeah, you should be innovating with your controller designs. I'm way more positive on a lot of the past innovations. And I think, even if it's not used, like the 6-axis wasn't used really well in the launch lineup. It wasn't used well in Lair. But I do think that there have been a lot of subtle things that have come about, like the graffiti in Infamous Second Son, just shaking the flashlight in Last of Us, just things like that just having that augment of motion control helps in the same way that like having rumble helps. And I think that some of these features in the DualSense are along those lines.
I just replayed Last of Us like 2 months ago, and you could cut out shaking the controller to recharge the flashlight. That game would be just as good. I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree with the sentiment, but a lot of times I don't think these things end up being all that meaningful.
The one example I really, really loved was Silent Hill Shattered Memories, when the phone call would come through the Wii controller.
Yeah.
Because that was just so immersive and scary and
Some
wild.
games do that well across on Nintendo consoles or on.
Yeah. But yeah, by and large, like, like jiggling the flashlight and stuff, I appreciate it because it's like, that's a fun little thing, but yeah, it's not like a game changer.
So Sony this week announced that, hardware that we all own won't work with other things that Sony's doing. They announced a game that actually didn't have anybody currently developing it at the time, and they stole Spider-Man from half of the player base. They had a fun week. Sony had a fun week.
What's so funny is, like, the last podcast I was on, I was critical of Microsoft because I didn't think the showcase was very good. And now we're being critical of Sony. It's interesting to see the reverse, where it's like, oh, you're Sony shills, oh, you're Microsoft shills. It's like, no, it's just what we think.
And now, a word from our sponsor. If you're like me, then you enjoy eating but not cooking. I'm sorry, Ben. That's why I love using Postmates, but I kind of love them even more right now because I can get food delivered without leaving the house or even opening the door. Given what's going on in the world, they created non-contact deliveries. So now when you order from local restaurants, everything gets left right outside of your door. They also have Postmates Pickup, which you can use to order takeout from your favorite local restaurants. You guys need to be supporting your neighborhood spots right now. Ordering local is a great way to support the community. And Postmates doesn't just deliver burgers and sushi, they actually make your life easier by picking up everything you need from Walgreens and 7-Eleven and dropping it off outside your door. Just download Postmates on iOS or Android, find your favorites, and get anything you want delivered within the hour. I consider a personal victory. I've said this before, I'll say it again, forever. Anytime we order out, because Amanda is a wonderful cook. She loves preparing food. She's done an amazing job with groceries so far. But every now and then she's just like, oh, like tomorrow night's pizza night. She's like, I'm out of mozzarella. I'm like, yeah. I feel so bad. But get something super tasty, and it's so easy to get. And
I'm not sure what to read into that, Joe.
it's just not. I just like other people making things. I just like to make it easy.
Sure.
And this is just set up. Ease of use, that's delicious. That fills up my stomach when I just think of how easy stuff can be when I don't have to prepare it for myself. For a limited time, Postmates is giving our listeners $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days. To start your free deliveries, download the app and use code EasyAllies, all one word. That's code EasyAllies for $100 of free delivery credit for your first 7 days when you download the Postmates app. Anything you need, anytime you need it, Postmate it. And if you are a patron of Easy Allies, thank you. Well, Microsoft did something this week, Ben. xCloud no longer works with iOS.
Yeah.
And problem might not ever. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just will DualSense be significant? You cross your fingers.
I read before the podcast that the App Store, Apple came out and said, yes, this doesn't comply with App Store guidelines. And I believe, and you could correct me, hopefully, that it's because it's going into beta. And in order to do that on iOS, you have to go through a very specific program. And so if you're not doing it, there's some conflict there.
There's a lot of weird things there, but yeah, there's also this whole thing about it. Yeah, connecting to cloud services that are not on a machine that you own is a whole thing, and then also because you're going to be playing software that Apple hasn't approved to put on the App Store. There's just all kinds of weird little things.
Well, and maybe I'm jaded. I'm a recovered Apple user. I used to be all Apple, and now I'm no Apple. But I can't help but think, I'm okay, but what's the monetary reason that you don't allow this? Because a lot of stuff in the past on the App Store is always just Netflix had to be more expensive on there or whatever because of their fees and stuff, whatever it was.
They wouldn't allow you to buy on Prime Video. You couldn't buy videos.
Right.
Right. God.
Because it was
so
it had to be. It was so stupid.
Because they want you to buy them on iTunes, and it's just So it's I was trying to think, I'm okay, are they doing a cloud gaming thing and that's why they're killing this so that they can just make money and force you to use their thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to be playing games on your iPhone and not using any of the iPhone ecosystem or...
Well, you also have Apple Arcade to think
that's,
about.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, Apple Arcade's probably the big
So,
reason.
to me, it's just so transparently just
So,
capitalist
Ian,
insanity. Yeah.
Yeah, I've used an iPhone my whole not my whole life, but ever since I started using smartphones, right? And
I heard you were born with an iPhone.
No, not my whole life, but for as long as I've been using smartphones, so a long time, since high school, and I don't know if xCloud is any good. I haven't used it, but the idea of it is super appealing. And on top of other things that we've just mentioned, it's really making me think about moving over to Android. I wonder if it would just be less fuss,
Well, it's pretty damn fussy, but...
Is it?
It's fun.
That's not a great sell.
There's just no perfect answer. Ian, I've had Apple products ever since I knew what a computer was. I don't think I'm shackled for life. I don't know if I could ever make the jump.
The Apple shackles, man.
It would take a lot, and I do play a ton of mobile games, so it's just on the go stuff. I think I'm pretty much covered as far as entertainment is concerned. But this ball is completely in Apple's court. I don't think because Stadia is also on the chopping block as well. So. Yeah.
But to go with this, it
should
be
in more than one way.
No.
Hello.
But yeah, it should be noted how much stuff that Microsoft revealed related to this. There's a whole line of different controllers to come out with. I remember last GDC they were showing just how easily they had made their entire development kit to accommodate touchscreen controls and really not just putting a bunch of buttons on screen, but to really adapt to make sense on a touchscreen. Xbox is going hard for this because they know how many millions and millions of people will be able to play their games on a phone that can't even afford to, just invests in a gaming console or a gaming PC. So it's really a market they're hoping to tap into, and having that, bundled in with Game Pass and everything else is just part of that big strategy.
That's the secret sauce, though.
Yeah.
Right? Is that Game Pass, bundling it in with Game Pass?
Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, the personal take on it is like, I really don't care about this fight, because if I use xCloud, it's gonna be so that I can use it on like a laptop or something, not a phone. So I don't have to take my Xbox with me when I travel across the country.
Yeah.
You're no
It's
fun,
so-
Bloodworth.
It's so funny because like Microsoft, I really, really, really respect the direction that they're headed, and I think they're being really forward thinking. But at the same time, it's like, I've been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves lately, and it's like the like hoops you have to jump through to just get someone on your damn boat, like with like four PC apps and like all this stuff. I just bought this. I got the like custom Xbox controller or whatever, and like pairing it through normal Bluetooth didn't work, but going to the control panel and just adding a new hardware device worked immediately, and now it's fine. And it's just like, this is your own infrastructure, and it's insane. There's like 6 different Xbox apps on my computer.
Not to
4,
mention
I think.
how comically awful the Windows Store still
Good
is.
Lord.
It's
And the Xbox
it's
app.
almost impressive how bad the Windows Store
There's
is.
the Windows Store, there's the Xbox app, there's the Xbox console companion app, there's the Xbox like dashboard like hub thing that's just a
Game
widget.
bar, I think it is.
Yeah,
or
the
something
game
like
bar. There's the Xbox Insider thing. It's just like, just do one thing. And like, we try every single way to invite like Sophia to my boat, and which one works is different every time. It's hilarious. So like, xCloud touting how easily this is going to work across all things, I'm skeptical because it doesn't even work on their own operating system. But
I mean, I'm just, especially after Stadia, I'm just
Yeah.
skeptical of game streaming in general.
Well,
Right?
yeah.
Happy to be proven wrong. Want
Love
it
to
to
be
work.
proven
Excited about the idea, but
It's so early.
Yeah.
It'll we'll get there. It's just tis very early, and maybe too much to ask from Microsoft and Apple to make it work. It sounds like they're bad for each other. Just sounds like they gotta.
Well, isn't Apple behind on 5G as well?
Apple's behind on a lot of stuff.
You
Bloodworth.
sniffing what, Blood?
Well, I'm just saying, like, the game streaming is like a perfect use case for 5G, and if iPhones aren't really there yet, then it sort of makes sense anyways to stay on Android.
Don't you know that 5G makes you grow extra eyes on your jaw? That's what I heard.
Did they know this? Like, did everybody
now
that
our
announced this-
podcast is going to get taken down for conspiracy theories. Great.
We'll discuss that after the podcast. I mean, why say this now? Did this just accidentally come out? Do you think they got pressured to say this? It's
Well, there's a big Samsung event where they highlighted this. There's a press conference that Samsung had for the new phones and
For the Galaxy
xCloud and
Note.
everything. Yeah.
Whatever.
So they definitely knew it was coming, and they shut that service off basically right after they made all these Android announcements. How long they've known, I don't know.
Yeah, we were just always really curious about this, and if you had the answers, I just don't know why you talk about this now. Because the good news is Xbox Game Pass, which has a different logo now, but it's still called Xbox Game Pass, will add the service on September 15th. Of course, just Android, but yay. So, weird to get both of those things at the same time. I guess just, 2 pills to swallow at the same time. But we will see how that works on September 15th. Ben, are you optimistic? About Androids, at least?
I don't know. I'm curious to try one. I'm so out of my element when it comes to Android phones that I don't know what to get, but
Get that hot new
as far-
Samsung. xCloud works on it great, I hear.
as far as xCloud goes, optimistic but skeptical is what I would say. At the same time. Yeah. Both things.
I think what used to be E3 and is now not E3 is we're done with that. We still got some Summer Game Fest stuff, but like all of the E3 stuff. And so now we get to, fall's coming. The colors are changing, and the Game Developers Conference is here. Or not here, kind of here. You just have to get tickets. You got to sign up for it still.
Oh, yeah.
It fills to
ticketed event.
capacity. How does that work?
Yeah.
Well, GDC was supposed to be in March. It got canceled. It got moved to summer, and then the summer was like obviously not going to happen, so they canceled that and made it a virtual event. But yeah, so Ian and I have been to a few sessions because we still have press passes, and it's what we're going to talk about a bit more in a standalone video. But it's interesting the way they've set it up, because some parts of it actually feel perfectly comfortable, perfectly like GDC. You know, there's essentially, you know, sessions that are most of them are pre-recorded, some of them are live, and then they've got like a chat window there so you can talk with other people, and including sometimes the speaker. If it's pre-recorded, the speaker will be in chat talking to people and answering questions. And so but they still have like a whole schedule for the 3 days this week. The other parts of it that are really weird is they have like virtual booths and meeting connections and stuff like that, and it's really strange because it doesn't feel like I know what I should be doing with that. Because I look through and like, okay, well, there's a trailer for this indie game, and you know, book a meeting, and I'm like, well, but book a meeting to do what exactly? You know, what am I gonna do in this virtual meeting? So it's a lot different than just like wandering around Epic's booth and looking for Megan Rue and Daniel Kaiser.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. It's just like running into people. And now the only way I can really run into people is if I see somebody in a chat room during a session.
Has that happened?
Not really. I mean, Austin Wintery, during his session, he was in there. So there's a little banter back and forth. But
so just let it be known, everybody, if you're going to be in there, Bloodward's looking to hang out. He wants to know how your GDC is going. Ian, how's your GDC going? What have you checked out so far?
I've watched 4 or 5 events and or talks, and they're interesting. Like, like Blood said, there were 45-minute, half-hour little talks. Sorry, I stuttered there for a minute. And the keynote speech style, like lecture with a PowerPoint, worked fairly well. And then they've been doing a lot of like music performance stuff, which I thought were pretty cool. But yeah, you definitely miss out on just kind of that discoverability thing. And like looking through when I was looking at the list of what was going to be normal GDC back in whenever, and I mean, like I was going to do Train Jam and I was going to do a whole bunch of stuff. Like GDC was going to be a whole thing for me this year.
Train Jam was like the last thing.
Train Jam like canceled. Yeah, it was sad. But like my schedule was almost entirely full of events, and sadly, like I think just due to scale or something, like, you know, I looked through all 3 days of this, and 5 or 6 of them I were like, okay, that's cool. But a lot of the little things didn't happen. Some of them I do know from the old GDC went onto the vault. I think like they put up online a lot of the old talks that were going to be back there. So this is like a new, fresh GDC thing. So it's just a little smaller scale. But it's cool.
I mean, a lot of the things that would have been there have already happened in that sense. You know, the Unreal presentation that was going to be a GDC.
Or even like fun stuff, just like a 7th guest retrospective or whatever. It's like,
cool.
Yeah, less stuff like that. And this is more just like, this is a lot more focused on game developers in a more like production kind of setting, I think.
There's you'll appreciate this, Brandon. There's quite a few. They've had like guided meditation things.
Yes.
Tai Chi
and some yoga things.
Oh man, one of the PAX panels I submitted. Fingers crossed.
Some of the things that have made it through have been
wellness, baby. Woo!
Very current topics, you know, like working from home stuff and, you know, abusive workplace issues and things like that. But it's just, as Ian was saying, like the volume is just so much less. You know, I haven't seen much there from like Ubisoft or Nintendo or Xbox. It's, you know, and you know, he's talking about, you know, he's seeing like 5 or 6 things over the course of the whole 3 days, whereas I would look at a GDC schedule in the past and be like, okay, there's 5 or 6 things I want to do in this half-hour block.
Right.
What am I going to pick?
Like, I have to choose one over the other in past GDCs, yeah.
And there will literally be at times where in the same hour there will be 20 or 30 sessions going on at GDC.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot less going on.
That said, though, the website that they built to house this, I thought is phenomenal. You see a session you want to do, you click it, it adds it to your schedule. Sometimes they fill up. There's like a limited number of
They're
seats.
interactive sessions, yeah.
Okay. But 2 of the ones I guess maybe the ones I did, none of them were interactive. But yeah, the website just worked really well. Everything went live 10 minutes before with a little music and stuff. It was just really, really slick. I really liked the experience of this GDC online. So
yeah, a lot of people have to do events like this again, potentially, like we'll get into that, but BlizzCon's not happening until next year, and so I wonder how closely a lot of these different companies and developers and stuff are watching these events when they happen, learning when things go well. But by the time somebody's listening to this podcast, it's over, right? Do we have one more day, or today was the last day?
No,
today was the last day.
You missed it, everybody. Sorry. Also this week, Animal Crossing New Horizons is now the second best-selling game on the Switch. It has sold 22 million units. Animal Crossing New Horizons has sold more copies than every Metroid game combined.
In a 3-month period.
In a 3-month period.
Yeah.
We didn't need to know that. But that was a tweet. Yeah, they had an update. There's some fireworks in there now. But there was a financial report. This is just the kind of crazy week it was that we didn't really, made the decision not to deep dive into that financial report. But from April to June 2020, Nintendo's profits increased by 427%.
Boy, talk about the right game at the right time, huh?
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane.
But there's been a lot of sales out beyond that. Yeah, like Animal Crossing is a big point, but like there's everything. Yeah.
Yeah, Xenoblade selling over 1 million?
Yep, the highest selling version of the original Xenoblade.
You're doing me proud, audience.
Which is about to outsell the NES.
Yes, that's the biggest news is that it sold just under 6 million units in a quarter again. So it's way ahead of its target, and
it's like 61 million total.
This report went through June 30th. We're over a month past that. It has easily now passed the NES as the second best-selling console from Nintendo, only behind Wii, but it still has some handheld. I believe.
I was going to say Game Boy is still way out there. Yeah.
Yeah, the Game Boy and the DS. I think it still has to surpass them.
That's what I'm saying. All these other big boys, they're trying to get their teraflops in there when already like the Switch just shows like all you got to do is be cute.
Yeah, man.
And everything's perfect.
Pikmin 3 Deluxe coming to Switch.
I'm actually very excited about
nothing
that.
but good news for Switch owners.
I don't know if you want to open that door. I didn't
play Pikmin 3, so I'm stoked.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
Brandon
never
knows
played
what
it.
he's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware, but this is the third strike for Nintendo. People love to throw on anti-consumer. If you'd like to really talk about that, they delisted Pikmin 3 from Wii. From Wii U, sorry. $20 version of that, following in the footsteps of New Super Mario Brothers Wii U. Got delisted, I believe, and they're charging full price for the new one. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was the first one. At that time I was willing to give it. So all things being said, the delisting part, delisting it. Who the hell is going to go buy it on Wii U right now? 12 people are going to go buy it on Wii U for cheaper at this point. But like, it's shitty. It's a scumbag thing to do.
It's a scumbag thing to do.
It hurts such a small group of people. Like, why? Why even?
What are you doing?
The negative backlash from this has to be way worse than just leaving it up on the Wii U shop.
They're trying to do you a favor, Damiani. They're trying to make sure that you always get the best possible version.
That is so.
That's scummy.
Stupid and scummy.
What I think is hilarious, we just talked about the sales numbers of the Switch, right? I think if everybody that could possibly want to play this game and pay less for it went out there and bought the leftover used Wii U's that are in stores, it still wouldn't make a dent in this game sale.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the point. It's like
the
such a
only thing
weird
they're doing is cutting themselves out of like 3 instances of $20, like,
it's so
and
bizarre.
making everyone mad in the process.
So bizarre.
Ben, it is a nice thing to do, though. Halo Infinite multiplayer will be free to play. And it'll apparently run 120 frames per second on Xbox Series X. Free to play, though.
This is a big deal. This is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Clarification request. Is it free to play just full stop, or do you have to buy the game?
So my understanding of it is it'll be kind of like the way Warzone is handled with Call of Duty, right? So you could download the multiplayer section of Halo Infinite for free. The exact details we don't know yet. They haven't gone in depth into everything, what's going to be there, but you'll download that. You won't be able to access the campaign at all, but you'll have access to the multiplayer and can progress.
I guess that's what free to play means. Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of people will be playing that game. Battletoads got a release date, August 20th. They're making.
Yeah, that was weird.
Netflix needs to slow down. They're making a Beyond Good and Evil film, along with they're making like 10 different video game projects right now. So.
No game, but
yeah,
the game's never coming out.
Not the news I wanted for that project. I'll take this news. Leisure Suit Larry: Wet Dreams Dry Twice was announced. Blood's not a fan.
Say that again.
God.
What? Did you say Wet Dreams Dry Twice?
Wet Dreams Dry Twice, the sequel to Wet Dreams Don't Dry, which I heard good things about, so there.
Shut up, stop it.
Analog
He's
Pocket.
apparently looking to settle down now?
Yeah, he's going to get married.
I've played a fair amount of Leisure Suit Larry games in my day. I enjoy that franchise.
Okay.
You perv.
Yeah.
You are the anime sex games guy.
I've read a few Playboys, too. Nyak, nyak. The Analog Pocket pre-order sold out in 15 minutes, but made a lot of people angry at the same time.
Yeah.
Ninja had his Twitch channel restored, and Dr. Disrespect is now on YouTube. So that did that.
Did we ever find out what happened with that guy?
Nope.
Like,
No, we don't know.
Nope.
Still don't
the
know.
deal?
But he's on YouTube now and doing very well, as is Ninja. Blizzard's doing BlizzCon in early 2021. This was also fascinating. Man, too much to talk about. Activision Blizzard, maybe we'll talk about this more next week. Activision Blizzard reported record results for Q2 2020. Hours before that, a bunch of Activision Blizzard employees created a document to highlight the pay disparity at Blizzard.
Yes,
So
good on them.
Everyone's just parsing both of those massive amounts of information, and I'm curious to see how that will develop. Street Fighter V is getting Dan, Rose, Oro, and Akira from rival schools.
Yes. What an awesome lineup of characters.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I think it's weird, and there are rumors going around, right? And these are just rumors that this was kind of done as an emergency thing because they were planning on having Street Fighter 6 come out earlier, and to kind of this is filling the gap as they rework Street Fighter 6. But I don't want to get too much into that because that's unconfirmed. However, I want to say that the way that they presented this. And the characters that they chose, fantastic. By preference, I think Akira is the most exciting out of the lineup, and I wish we were starting with that. And I think it's a little bit of a bummer how spread out all of the characters are, but considering the current situation, and if this was maybe thrown together last minute, I kind of understand. But yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting how much certain characters being announced can just raise your interest level in something. Like, I want to check out every single character that they announced.
That's great. I'm happy for you, Ben. You've been frustrated on this podcast before. About that franchise.
Yes.
The Intellivision reboot was delayed to April 2021. Drew Scanlon, a.k.a. the Blinking GIF guy, ex-Giant Bomb, joined Other Ocean/Digital Eclipse.
Yep. Same place Chris Kohler went.
So...
They're going to be doing some history projects.
Doom Eternal and Elder Scrolls Online are coming to Xbox Series X and PS5 eventually. Don't know when that is exactly going to happen.
Is the crowd that cheers about Elder Scrolls Online going to be on Xbox Series X as well?
Oh, wouldn't that be great? That'd be a great skin you could get like on your desktop or something on your console. Just every time you switch to like a new game or something, like I get that. There will be a new Cyberpunk 2077 Night City Wire on August 10th, 9 a.m. That's this Monday. Mark your calendars. Anyone who listens to this podcast, Friday or Sunday, you still have time to mark your calendar and check that out if you're curious. And this is amazing. Did you hear about this, Damiani? John Boyne's novel, who is a fantasy, he mixes fantasy and reality. His latest novel, A Traveler at the Gates of Wisdom, mentions red Lizalfos and Hylian shrooms. But not because that guy wanted to. He clearly just Googled some recipes of something and just like yoinked those. And I don't think realized he was quoting Breath of the Wild. But he did.
Okay.
It's just one of those bits.
A happy accident. All right.
Yeah, it's like when you like grab a tune or grab a name from something, and you're like, that name doesn't mean anything to me, so surely it doesn't mean anything to the rest of the world. But
It
then,
means that book is in canon with Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
so if you're a
already
Nintendo
is.
fan, put it on your reading list. It is time for Love and Respect.
Whoa.
Love and
Love and respect.
Got distorted there a little bit.
Rufus
best you
like
can.
crap out for a sec.
It's not the notes he plays, it's the notes he doesn't play.
It's like jazz.
Yeah, man. Jason Wojnar, hi allies. I know some of you are musicians, just like Rufus. I recall seeing guitars hanging in Brad's background, and Ian sings and plays piano if I remember correctly. I'm currently studying voice in Kiev, Ukraine, although it's K-Y-I-V, Kiev? Ukraine, though I'm an American. Sure, let's go with that. And I pay for my studies with freelance writing mainly about video games. My question for the musicians among the allies is, how do you still engage with music? Do you still practice in a traditional sense, i.e. learning new exercises, ways to play scales, or new challenging pieces, or write music, or is it just more of a fun diversion? Love and respect, Jason Wojnar. Is it a diversion for you, Ian?
I mean, it is enjoyable. I am trying to write music personally. And sometimes I do little small projects like, I need to do a fan mail or whatever. So I'll spend a few hours and make like a kind of one sitting kind of song like I used to do for Easy Update. Or I'll make a song for this RPG project that I'm way behind on. Or it's the making actual songs for an actual album that's the real hard part. But I've gotten into modular synthesis, which is really cool because sometimes you could what you're doing sort of, but like you could be very surprised and just let it emerge, and then you like take a little snippet of that and like play piano over it or something, and things can get real wild. I should definitely do more practicing of scales and learn my theory, relearn I guess my theory, and I should do more voice exercises and stuff just to keep the instrument in tune,
I do not. I learned piano at a young age. I've got no piano skills now. Beyond just like, I think it's that note, no, it's that one.
Yeah.
But I do sing a lot. I have sung all my life, and having the little Milo there has been a nice little, I'm like, I am going to learn the words to Rainbow Connection. I think I know them. And I looked them up. I'm like, I mostly had them. Nice. But it's fun going back to musical theater and finding songs. Yeah. I found a great Sweeney Todd, a musical about a serial killer, does have a really good lullaby in it. There is one song that I'm like, okay, talks about demons and stuff, but I'm like, I'll just take that one song. So thank you, Milo, for getting me back singing again.
Did you watch that Sondheim 90th birthday special?
No, I heard about that, but yeah, I heard that was
it had
very
some
special.
real good stuff in it.
A fun cast. Let's play a game from Sponge J1. Hello, allies. I've returned with a new batch of games that everyone knows and maybe everyone loves for a new iteration of Timesplitters. If you haven't played, it's simple. Out of 2 games listed, which according to How Long to Beat is shortest. There was a bit of confusion last time we played this. You're working for the shorter game. Note, this is for the main story of the game, not the completionist or main plus extra items or anything. This is just the main path, main story. Love and respect, and sorry, Enforcer, Sponge J1. Paper Mario 64 or Paper Mario The Thousand-Year Door? Which was shorter?
Paper Mario 64.
Yeah,
That'd be
Mario
my
64.
guess.
23 hours. Thousand-Year Door was 30 and a half.
Woo.
Control versus Alan Wake.
Alan Wake.
Ooh, Alan
Control.
Wake. Yeah, Alan Wake.
Well,
Control.
Control
Alan
now
Wake.
is longer with the DLC.
No. Main
No,
story.
it's just main story. It's just main story. Yeah, yeah.
Control is
Alan
not
Wake.
bad.
Alan
I
Wake's
think
11
Alan Wake-
hours. Control's 11 and a half.
Yeah.
I think you could.
Close.
I can make Alan Wake run for an 11 and a half. Super Mario Odyssey versus Super Mario Sunshine.
Odyssey.
Main story.
Mario
Sunshine.
Sunshine. Probably.
Sunshine.
Odyssey for main story, I think.
I feel like Sunshine's pretty long.
Sunshine is.
Sunshine
easy
can go
living
pretty
memories.
quick.
I love both of those games.
I do too.
I feel like they're very
Odyssey is-
close.
Odyssey's,
Yeah.
Odyssey's 12 and a half. Sunshine's 16 and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I guess if you're super crit-pathing it with Odyssey, but who does that? Who plays the game that way?
How Long to
people on
Beat
HowLongToBeat.com,
does that apparently.
yeah.
Yep. It's just like Open Critic. It's just like, hey, take it up with them. Undertale versus Earthbound. Let's kind of know this.
Undertale.
Undertale.
That was not that tough. Undertale 6 and a
Yeah.
half, while Earthbound is 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bloodworth spent all 28 of those hours in my house. Rayman Origins versus Rayman Legends.
No idea.
Legends.
I'm
The shorter one. What's shorter? Legends or Origins?
I'm trying to remember.
gonna go.
Forget which is
both of
which.
these.
Me too. I'm gonna say Legends.
I
Actually,
think Legends is shorter.
That's correct. Legends is 9.5. Origins is 11.
Yeah.
Dark Souls 1, original, not remastered, versus Demon Souls. Dark Souls versus Demon Souls.
oh man.
First playthrough?
First playthrough, main story. I'm gonna say Demon Souls.
Yeah, I'd edge toward Demon Souls.
Tiz, 31. Dark Souls at a meaty 46 hours.
Yeah. I remember
Really? Wow.
my game clock when I finished Dark Souls 1 was like 200 hours. So I'd because I'd done so much.
Yeah, that's what's weird to me. Like, I feel like those games could easily be shorter on those. Huh.
Well, Demon Souls is just the way that it's structured, more segmented. Where
Yeah.
Dark Souls, I think, has a greater opportunity to get lost. Not that you don't have that in Demon Souls, you do, but not to the same extent.
Hey, Blood. Witcher 3 versus GTA 5. What do you got? What do you
Oh.
got,
Witcher
man?
3.
What do you got? Which one's the shorter
The
game?
shorter?
They're
GTA
both
5
so
versus
long.
Witcher 3.
Main quest, GTA 5.
What do you got? Sadly, it is 31.5. Witcher 3 is 51. Longest game
Oh,
on
wait.
this list.
I did the thing.
did the thing.
I was saying for longer.
Yep.
I was saying
I
for
believe
longer.
you.
Whoops.
Who thinks Witcher is shorter than GTA 5? Get out
Yeah,
of here.
no. Yeah.
If Witcher had convertibles, it'd be a much different story. Sneak King versus Pepsi Man.
Snake King.
Pepsi Man.
Let's go Pepsi Man.
So
Pepsi
sneaking.
Man.
Right.
Pepsi Man 2 hours.
Pepsi
Sneak King's
Man.
3.
Oh,
Awesome.
And
I just
finally,
wanted to say Pepsi King.
Blinks. I love that all these games are logged. Blinks the Time Sweeper versus Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. The very first Sly
Ooh,
game.
Sly Cooper 1 is super short.
I'm gonna say Sly
Yeah, I
Cooper
just
because I
played
don't
through
know
Sly.
anything about that other one.
I'm gonna say
I don't know how
Sly
long
Cooper.
Blinks is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sly 7 hours. Blinks is 9.5. Thank you, Sponge J1. Those are always fun. I don't know how
Remember
well I
that
would do at
cool
those. I don't
spot?
know. That's a sacrifice to make us moderator. I will never know how I will ever do at any of these games.
You could have one
given
of
that
us
up.
do it one time if you want.
I think we
Nah.
crushed that one. I think
Yeah,
it's
we-
safe to say
we
we
did.
crushed that one. Yeah.
Do you
Very
remember
proud of
that
you.
Cool Spot game? The 7-Up
Yeah.
game?
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
I do. I played it on Genesis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sponge J, if you could put that in the next one, that'd be great.
Yeah.
The second chapter. Part 3. Stay tuned for that cool spot. I'm going to get comments about it
Right,
now.
Cool Spot
Everybody's
versus
going to want to know.
Unanoid?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, dude. The
Place your bets now.
Noid. Oh, God.
Speaking of, time for bets. Next week's bet. Fast and the Furious Crossroads is clearly the thing we got to do this bet around. That launches on August 7th, which is basically today. If you're listening to this podcast, it is August 7th or August 9th. On IMDb Pro, not IMDb. If you go to IMDb and you can't find this, it gets Pro. It's the one you got to pay for. There's a thing called Star Meter, and everybody in Hollywood gets ranked by this. And then if you are number one, that's the best thing you could possibly be. My lovely wife is 38,000, I think, something around there. Which, if you think about it, it's
pretty
a
good.
lot of actors. You know,
pretty good.
There's a lot of people. Yeah, I think you break 50K, and that's that ain't bad.
Like, this to me is just wild. I didn't know about this, but it's just like
Yeah.
no matter how big you get, you can never escape the rat race.
Does this
it's always
go
a
for
competition.
anybody on IMDb?
If you are,
Am I ranked on this
if
thing?
you are
Dude,
logged,
am I on
yeah.
there? I want to see.
I think
wait,
it might.
look
I
me
don't know,
up.
like under a mil. They might cut people off. I don't know.
I'm on IMDb.
But as you would
look me up.
imagine, Vin Diesel is pretty high on that star meter. Currently, 491. He was 299 points above that. It says he was down 299 points, which I'm assuming is bad, from last week. With this Fast and Furious Crossroads coming out now, where's he going to be next week?
So to be clear, you want to be number one.
You want to be number
the
one?
most
Is he going up?
famous.
Is his number going down, meaning he went up in estimation? Ian Hink, where's he going to be next week?
442.
442, okay. Mr. Michael Damiani,
I said 250.
250, okay.
Big bump.
Ben Moore.
I did a last minute change because I thought going up was better, and so I wanted to fix that real quick. I did it before Ian said his, but 332.
Just gone.
Saw it for half a frame. Bloodworth.
I'm really close to
It's
Ian.
in the
I'm at
blood.
450.
Oh no, I'm close to you.
Oh.
I went 470. Damn it.
Well grouped up.
Locking him in. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Last week's bet. Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. I took that entire title and just put
Fallout Ultimate
it launched on
Guys.
August 4th. We played it. We had fun. We're recording this podcast right now, and I would like to know right now, I got it ready to refresh, how many people are watching that right now?
Oh.
Just refreshing. I said 60,000. Bloodworth said 300,000. Huber said 87,345. Damiani said 65K. Ian Hink said 36K. 206,000 people are currently watching Fall Guys on Twitch.tv. Giving Blood the win. Yeah. Bringing our scores.
He already knew. He already knew that he won.
That was some
He's
precognition.
basking in it.
Those
Everyone
scores
thought I was crazy last week.
No, that
That's a big
game's a
number.
delight to watch.
Not necessarily crazy,
Happy
just
to be
bold.
wrong.
Just bold. It was a bold Bloodworth, and we love to see it. We're still behind, but those scores now are Jovial Penguins 8.
Shit.
Don't recall oh shit from that film. Astonished Scorpion 6.
I saw her first. Got a phone.
I saw her first. Yeah.
I just the first quote that came up. Sorry.
No, that's a good one. I saw her first.
Let me tell you about patreon.com/easyallies, a fan group for Batman Returns and other Tim Burton films. We do have a film podcast. You got that reaction shots. Anything reaction shots tied into our Patreon? Can people do
Yeah,
anything?
Oh,
$7.
yeah, $7 up.
I'm asking Ian, man. It's his show. God,
Film Club. Got a cool guest coming up. Oh, yeah, I should probably write the prompt for this week. We're doing anime films.
ooh.
Anime films.
But you can get cool stuff if you go to
You get cool
patreon.com/easyallies.
stuff.
It's
If
another
you're
way
on
to
the
be involved in
$7.
shows.
Oh, sorry.
We have some shows you can only get involved with if you go to that Patreon. Ian, you were saying?
$7 up. You get it to comments.
You get the comments for
Discussion.
$7. Do you have $7? Are you willing to spend it? Go to patreon.com/easyallies. That is where you can go to get this podcast early. You can get this podcast on Fridays, the day after we record it. Otherwise, this goes up public for everybody on Sundays. And then that Spider-Man news is super old. But we definitely appreciate it because it is how all of us make a living. And thank you to all of our patrons and everybody supporting us there. And also just a fun place you can go to get more information, more updates about stuff that the Easy Allies are up to. People that have made a serious commitment, some new names on this list. Very excited about it. On our shout-out tier, the top tier at patreon.com/easyallies. Ian, you're going first. I'm going after you. Bloodworth, you're after me. You bumped up. You're usually at the bottom row. You're up on top this week, Blood. I like it.
Moving on up.
Damiani, you're going after Bloodworth, and then Ben, you are filling out the shout-outs. A hearty shout-out goes to Caleb Togi Crawford, Delisi, L. Thanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, Jeff ZOVGM Easton, and JL Burton, LLC.
Shout
Shout
out.
out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Excellent. Daniel Bloodworth, why don't you shout out me an ending to this podcast? You get to promote any Easy Allies video you'd like to promote. You get the final word on anything you disagreed with, want to reiterate, or just popped into your head, and you get to sign off with your trademark sign-off. My teammate, I'm so proud of you, Blue.
Video to promote. Have to do Damiani's Project Athea video.
Oh, yeah.
History of Luminous Productions.
Yeah.
A lot of time, a lot of iteration on that video.
And an amount of pickups only to rival Pop Fiction days. Really good. Back in the
Sorry
booth,
about
Jones.
Yeah,
It
there
It was
were
in
two
March.
drafts.
Back in the booth.
Poor Brandon.
I love it.
There were two drafts that you didn't even see, Brandon.
Oh,
They were
sure.
Entirely different directions for where this video could have gone. But yeah, it's been in the works for quite a while. Damiani has worked hard, did a lot of research, had to fix a lot of dates on things. And it's really cool. Definitely has that game sleuth kind of vibe, getting the deep dive into history of this stuff. For my final word, controller innovation is super important. The things that you think might be crazy, wild ideas might be the things that lead to games that you just can't make any other way. I think it's very cool to see PlayStation continuing in that. I hope we continue to see more crazy controller ideas in the future from future generations from Nintendo and Sony and even Microsoft. And we will see you before the next Blood Moon rises.
Well, it's pretty damn fussy, but it's fun. anime films.